Yes.
It's live. And I'll pass the host to you now, and I think then you can record it.
Beautiful. All right, I guess it's about a minute past the hour when we should be starting, but I think we should hang around for a minute longer before we let these Daml experts take the stage. Before we start, we have only a couple of things to talk about. One is that we are, as Hyperledger, we are part of the Linux Foundation, and we have to respect the antitrust policy of the Linux Foundation. The other requirement is that we have to treat each other with respect, even when we are disagreeing, or even when agreeing, I guess. So please be kind to each other. That's actually a requirement. I'm the chair of the Capital Markets Special Interest Group. And I'm coming to you from New York, where it's almost midnight. So forgive me if I'm a little under the, not at my usual level. But I had known digital assets for a long time, ever since the company started, actually, back in the day. So I know about the, how Daml came about, and was bought from a Swiss company, the language itself. And at the beginning, DA had its own blockchain, but now they are in the business of writing interoperable logic through Daml. So I'm not going to talk too much more. I want this capable team to take us through this bond project that we have already heard about before. So Karen, Dorit, and Casey are going to take over, and I'm going to disappear into the background. Thank you.
Thanks, Vipin. And thanks for Hyperledger Foundation's invite. So today's webinar is really a follow-up of Benedict Lowland's introduction 2 months ago. And Benedict is the head of Bank for International Settlements Innovation Hub in Hong Kong. And 2 months ago, she went on the same call and explained about the projects that BIS Innovation Hub is taking on in Hong Kong. And Project Genesis has received a lot of the questions. So thanks for the invite. And today we are hoping to give you a deep dive how digital asset team has successfully developed the prototype. My name is Karen. So I'm an associate director looking after business development for Capital Markets for digital asset based in Hong Kong. Also joined, very glad today, I'm joined by 2 of my colleagues in the same room, also in Hong Kong, is Dorit Du and Casey Tam from our technical sales engineering team. And they are both the real heroes behind the successful Project Genesis. Before we went on to talk about Project Genesis, we thought probably we can just take a moment to introduce digital asset. Vipin, we hope that you can comment on the history and development and involvement of the entire DLT evolution path. But digital asset was really established in 2014, and at the very early stage, as you mentioned, of enterprise blockchain. So we currently have 200 colleagues globally, and Hong Kong is our APAC hub, and working with the biggest financial institutions and also infrastructure to develop and help them to move on to the next generation of DLT solutions. We are very proud. Currently, we have 5 out of the top 10 exchanges in the world that are adopting this next generation and way of operating their business and utilizing digital assets modeling language Daml, which is a core part of digital asset, which Dora is going to explain further in details. Alone in APAC right now, we have 3 of the exchanges. We're working right now with ASX to bring the entire cash equity settlement onto blockchain. And in Hong Kong, we are also building with Hong Kong Stock Exchange a settlement accelerator to close the settlement gap in between Hong Kong's T+2 and China's T+0. In Singapore, we have worked with Singapore Stock Exchange and HSBC to streamline the issuance of lifecycle management of debt instruments. So all these experience and background led us to Project Genesis, a very ambitious pilot that we think because that tackles every aspect and workflow steps of the real of a retail green bond issuance instruments. If you can just give me a second while I bring up the screen. So today's session is going to be divided in three parts. Sorry, when I just cool.
Yeah, we are able to see your screen. Thank you.
Thank you. So today's session, we are hoping to break into 3 parts. I will explain about the project overview and the benefits. So Dora is going to really give you a sneak peek of Daml smart contract and how digital asset accelerate the tokenization. Casey, importantly, is also going to look at the architecture and the interoperability that has gone into this project. On the highest level, there are 3 key features that we have implemented for Project Genesis. First, it is about tokenization of a regulated financial instrument. In this case, a retail government green bond issued by the Hong Kong government. Second, what makes the POC stand out globally is the ESG transparency enabled by Daml smart contract. Third, technology-wise, we are very happy to share more in detail, and the 2 ledgers that we have implemented are both falling under the Hyperledger big umbrella. About tokenization, we know that tokenization is a buzzword, and for us at Digital Asset, tokenization is not just about digitizing security. Securities are, after all, already digitized for 2 to 3 decades. It's also not just about minting and burning and slicing tokens for liquidity trading. After all, if we compare to securities that are digitized, we think that a lot of the benefits have already been realized by the digitization path through dematerialization process. What we think the industry desires is standardization and ability to really embed lifecycle events onto the security itself. So issuer, for example, if we take bond coupon payment as for example. So issuer, currently issuer, paying agent, depository, and also investors need to keep their set of ledger for the record. If we are able to bring all the process onto a DLT facilitated infrastructure, all these tasks can be mutualized and held onto held onto the common infrastructure, and no institution need to keep their own set of the records. Second, about green impact and traceability. While financial institutions globally have been trying to figure out how green data can be standardized, captured, and validated, we have Project Genesis set a possible solution for the industry to capture the green impact data using IoT from the source, and also embed using smart contract natively onto the security itself. For Project Genesis, we worked with All Infra, another Hong Kong-based startup. Third, architecture-wise, we reached a breakthrough in terms of DLT technology. We think it's the first time that a project is not run on just one set of DLT enterprise network, but we implemented Hyperledger Fabric and Besu. The reason for two DLT network is really to ensure the prototype design is both compliant with the current securities regulation in Hong Kong, while ensuring the highest level of privacy. So we are glad to conclude that our prototype is fully compliant with the current regulation in Hong Kong, and each stakeholders are still taking the same roles and responsibilities. We didn't cut out any of the intermediaries, yet we're still able to achieve a more efficient and at the same time cost reduction through the entire process. So we have included more of the details in our report that you can find on the BIS website. I will also provide a link at the conclusion of this call. So the significant benefits can be achieved, and we estimate around 50% efficiency improvement from the current assets approach, cutting down the time for issuance from 1 to 2 months to around half. Closing, technically, we can cut the closing of the and the settlement of the bond at the end of the subscription from 7 days to, in theory, 0 days. And trading again, we are able to theoretically cut down the T+2 or T+3 for bonds to T+0. We have also included a very ambitious quantitative analysis to estimate around 18 basis points improvement that can be achieved by this prototype. So that's 0.18% cost benefits. You probably don't think it's too much, but for bond and when we were still at the moment at a near zero interest rate environment, we think that's something that the industry as a whole will want to take a look at. We have also concluded that every of the participant is able to realize to some extent benefits compared to the current way of operation. But there are mainly two aspects I'm hoping to highlight. One is about ownership and the other is about automation. A very sweet spot, we think, DLT, enterprise DLT use cases is for enterprise DLT use case is that when you create a single source of truth for who owns what when, this is a very classical use case and a big part of work that we are currently working on with ASX, Hong Kong Exchange, and also here with Project Genesis. It is about to create a digital custody to assure asset ownership at all the times, that the double spending problem that is tackled by using blockchain. So during the subscription period, the information flow is from the investor to placing institutions such as HSBC or Standard Chartered to HKMA. During the closing period, the information flows back from HKMA to placing institution to investor. And a lot of the inefficiency that we have found in the market is because the intermediaries need to enrich their data and ensure the process follow their own format and their own business logic. And technically, if we're able to bring everything onto the DLT, a lot of the efficiency can be gained just by knowing the ownership at all times. And the second point about automation, when we are looking at the evolution of the bond, from paper, first we have the paper certificate. And then people realize that if we centralize every of the record keeping into a central security depository, a CSD, we are able to derive a lot of efficiency from the central keeping. And CSD also, through the past 2 to 3 decades, have enforced digital record keeping. The digitization itself is a representation and does not contain or encode the behavior. So digitization have already increased a lot of it, as a result of the digitization, a lot of liquidity has been freed from the ease of trading. But we think the true value of tokenization by implementing DLT and smart contract is the ability to encode all the behaviors and the rules directly into the token itself. So again, take coupon payment as an example. We no longer need to keep a record, or as an investor or the institution, the paying agent, and every of the intermediaries along the chain, everyone can rely on the common infrastructure, for example. So our conclusion really from this prototype is that even though we don't cut any intermediaries and we follow the as-is process, and just by being very fully compliant with the current securities regulation, we are still able to derive a lot of efficiency and cost benefit from it. And our colleague Dorit is going to tell you more about how Daml smart contract enables that, and Casey looking at the architecture side.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, as Karen already explained that. Karen, yeah, thank you. As Karen already explained that the background of this project. So from my side, I'm more explaining how we model the bond with the smart contracts Daml. And Daml is our company product, which is our open source and then a Haskell-based smart contract. And then the Daml is designed for compliant, comprehensive tokenizations that again bundle with rights and obligations. So in this example, in the slide, we actually showing how we tokenize, model the bond with the Daml smart contract. And in Daml, first of all, you can see here we define the bond token by using templates. Template concept is similar to class in Java. And a template defines the type of contracts that can be created. And then contract is actually the instant of the template, or the other way to explain would be the object in Java way. And in terms of the rights and obligations, as you can see within the template, we also defining the authorizations in 3 ways. The first one is a signatory. So signatory means that who able to create this contract out of the template. Second one is observer. Observer is kind of like have a read-only access to this contract. The third one is a controller. And controller, which is they're able to exercising the choices. So choices is quite similar to functions in Java. Choices are part of the contract templated. It is a permissions that functions. So what does mean by for permission and functions? Meaning that every function you have to define the who able to access that particular choices. So in this example, you can see in the bond template under the with block, we have data model specify who is the issuer, owner, and all the lifecycle details of that bond. And then you can see some of the assert and then authorizations. And underneath that, you can see 3 choices. One is split, merge, transfer. So these activities actually we granting the owner who can do these choices. We didn't include it in this slide. Actually, there is one important choices which is from the issuer. They can issue the coupon payment based on the bond unit and this bond token. Can you please next slide? Yeah, thank you. So in this slide, actually, we want to show that how Daml deliver a shared state machines across their whole ecosystem. And then, so each of the transactions that make up of one or more choices will cause a contract state update across the affected node in a synchronized real time, synchronized in the real time to every affected node as well. So here we are giving, we're taking 3 examples. The first one imagines that now is the primary issuance phase. The investor joined, subscribe the bond, and then HKMA, which is the bond register in this case, is confirming the allocation. And then the issuer here will be sending a transactions to create a bond contract with the owner as John. So you can see in the slides is bond contract number 45. And then secondly, after that, when imagines that now in the secondary trading phases, John wants to sell partially to another investor, Can't. He wants to sell because the original unit is 100 and he wants to sell the 60 unit to John. So what step need to be done? The first one is John need to send a transactions exercising a choices to split the original bond, which is 100 units. So now in the second one, as you can see, the contracts number 46 and 47 got splitted, and one's bond contract with the 60 unit, another bond contract with 40 unit. So this is the first step in the secondary trading. The second step is actually John exercising a choice to transfer the bond, which is he want to transfer, he want to sell it to another investor, Can't. So by exercising the transfer, and then you're adding the parameter, which is the new owner, and then the previous contract will be archived. And then the new contract, bond number 48, will be created with the new owner, Can't. So this is showing that how the contract emerged within the ecosystem. The last example that we want to show is the issuer is at the coupon date want to pay out the coupon. So because that on every contract, the signature is issuer, so issuer is able to see all these bond tokens. It can fetch all the bond token at the coupon date, and then exercising a choice pay coupon under the bond contract to give out the cash. So when the issuer exercising the pay coupon, actually the previous bond contract will be archived and new set of the contract will be created with the updated remaining coupon data. And at the same time, a cash token will be also transferred from issuer wallet to the owner. So in this case, Can't and John as well. Okay. The next step, the next slides actually want to show you all the example I showed from the previous two slides. Actually, you can find it from our open source, the finance library. What does this open source finance library contain? Is actually some of the fundamental financial instrument definition, as you can see in the blue box. This is giving you, for example, how the assets looks like by using the Daml smart contract to model it, and how does the settlement, transfer, DVP, etc. will be looks like. And then in the second layer, which is the big box in the middle, is actually giving you a framework to tokenize the security. By using this one, you can tokenize any security that you want. And of course, in most of the cases, we need to customize it a little bit. So for Project Genesis, because that is a more Hong Kong retail bond specific, and then we customize some of the workflow on top of these two finance library. And then also we included the green traceability component in this one. So with this library and also the smart contract, the Daml smart contract is actually accelerate the time to market, and then giving you some of the so-called industry framework. Maybe without further ado, let's just play a video to show you what actually we did for this Project Genesis. Yeah, thank you, Karen. Sorry, maybe start from the very beginning. So this is the prototype of the UI we built for this Project Genesis. And then as you can see, yes. So we build a two interface for this POC. One is the web applications for institutional participant to manage the bond as well as manage the life cycle. And now the screen showing is the mobile app, which is we provided for the retail investor to onboard and then subscribe, and then also monitoring the life cycle of the bond. And then you can see we also do the mock-up of the KYC, which is a Zoom meal, and then taking the photo of the ID card, etc. So here is the band 2 is a placing band who manages the onboarding from on behalf of the retail investor. And then, so here is the Hong Kong government. Hong Kong government in this case, the issuer, so manage issuing the bond, so filling out all the term sheets, what's the criteria of that particular bond. And once it's done, this bond term sheets will be visible by the HKMA and placing band and all the co-arranger as well. So HKMA in this case is the bond register, will be approving this bond proposal. And then we have a couple of steps, which is co-arrangers need to approve the term sheets as well. Last but not least would be the legal counsel need to approve as well. And still remember that this one is a green bond. So we also involve the green data provider, which is OInver. So we add extra step to get the data license. And also what does it mean by this step would be actually OInver will be provided live data streamed into this bond. Here comes to the subscription phase. HKMA will start, maybe a little bit fast here. Yeah, so HKMA will start subscriptions. That means this bond will be available to the public. And then the investor, they can come to the mobile app and then seeing this bond available. And then they can subscribe by using fiat or the stable coin or FPS. At the close subscription period, HKMA come here and then stop allocations. At the back, actually, we have an algorithm that's written in Daml smart contracts as well to do the allocations. So the allocation result will be real-time visible to the placing band as well as the investor. At the settlement stage, this one, actually, there will be a DVP, on-chain DVP happen at the back. So before settling it, actually placing band, they need to confirm the allocation result on behalf of the investor. So once it's done, the bond will be minted under the investor wallet. And that's it. Thank you. Let me just pass the time to Casey and explaining the architecture of this project. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the introduction on the demo itself. That's very important because that's the soul of the whole project. All the workflow, everything in fact is coded in the demo. But we need an infrastructure to support this such that we can implement truthfully what we promised. So just double check whether my screen is shared and everyone can see it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So Dora has mentioned quite a lot in terms of the demo, the language itself, and also the contracts. And in fact, everything finally will need to land on we're landing on the infrastructure. So that part is what I'm going to talk about. So before I go into the very before I just show you the diagram that we're building for this project. So it's many stuff, but I try to, in the coming 5 to 10 minutes, I will unlock each part of it, because that's important to show that how we always mention that PVC is the most important part, how the contracts are being placed on the right components. That part I will try to use this diagram to make out. And by the way, we see our friends here. We see Fabric, we see Besu. So I'm talking about how the infrastructure, how Fabric and Besu is contributing into this whole infrastructure. So at the very beginning, I will first start with the middle layer. You see there are 6 boxes here. We call it participant nodes. Oh, by the way, I should mention the name first. This infrastructure, we call it Canton. And you probably heard about this for quite a while. And Canton is, we can use Canton to describe many things, but at this moment, I would say this infrastructure is a Canton infrastructure. And later, you may notice that I talk about Canton as the ledger, or distributed ledger in particular. But let's focus on the infrastructure first. So at the first component inside the Canton, we call it the participant nodes. You see that here there are 6 participant nodes. What's inside the participant nodes is very important. First, all the demo code, the financial library, all the customized code are uploaded into the participant nodes. That means all the participant nodes are executing the same business logic across the whole network. So in this case, the 6 participant nodes are sharing the same business logic written in Daml. Sometimes we call it DAR file. That is the right term we call it when we upload the DAR file to the participant nodes. And another component inside the participant node is where the party is being enabled or being allocated. I will talk about the parties later. In fact, it's on top of this diagram. You see HKMA, CMU, all the components, investor, co-arranger. So these are the parties that you just saw the demonstration. Those are the parties interact with the ledger. That is the parties. The parties are defined or enabled inside the participant nodes. That's the second part I need to highlight. The third part is what we call the contract. That is the actual source of truth for everything. If if an issuer has issued a bond unit that an investor is holding, that is a piece of contract written in the participant node. And this information will always be true, serve as the source of truth, such that every party, I'm very comfortable if that contract is in the participant nodes. So these are the components inside. These are the components inside every participant nodes. But interesting enough is not the same piece of information will exist in all participant nodes. It really depends on whether these contracts are relevant to their parties. I'll call an example later, but after the participant node, you can see in the upper layer, we will have the API. That is how the external world is talking to, accessing to the ledger, accessing to or exercising the choice, as what Dorrit mentioned before, or creating contracts. So it is done through the JSON API, and we also support gRPC Ledger API here as well. So the application, in fact, is written on top of this API, and this is the only accessing point the external world is talking to, interacting with the Canton environment. And last but not least, as I mentioned before, there are parties defined on each participant node. And when a party is defined in these participant nodes, this is important because that is where the party can act as an agent interacting with the ledger. So, for example, if an issuer is interacting with the participant node, that issuer must be a party on that participant nodes. And just like this one, the investor is in this part. When the investor need to take a look on what's in or how many bond units do I have, they are acting through as a party and through the API and get the truth information. You probably will see that, hey, how come there are so many investors are putting in the same participant node? In fact, it's quite flexible because when accessing the Canton environment, you can use you can just act as a party to connecting to a participant node, or in many cases, in fact, each participant node or each company or each organization, they may have their own participant nodes. But just for this POC, we just bring up 6 participant nodes. There's no limit on how many participant nodes you are going to deploy. It's really up to the business needs. So, for example, at the very beginning, if HKMA and CMU they prefer to have separate participant node and hold the source of truth on their premise only, they definitely can do so. But I mean, for this POC, we just put them there together. So again, we have that flexibility to allocate parties on different participant nodes. But more importantly, once you allocate the participant nodes, if say there's a contract between the co-arranger and the investor, so this piece of contract finally will only land it into these two participant nodes. For others, if they are not the relevant parties, if they are not observers, if they are not the controllers, they won't see this contract that is guaranteed by Daml and also guaranteed by the Canton system. That means if somehow you break into this node, I'm sure you cannot break it, but once you break it, you cannot find this piece of contract because the contract only exists on these two participant nodes. That's what the Canton technology guarantee on this part. So this is just the upper part of this diagram. So we are okay with the participant node. How many participant nodes, depending on the business needs, but how the participant nodes are talking to each other, they need to exchange message. So then we go into the underlying, this bottom part of the diagram. It is what we call the domain. So in this diagram, you see there are two domains here, or more generic term, we call it domain operators. So in this case, we have two domain operators. One is HKMA, one is HKEX. So this domain is responsible to link the participant nodes together to exchange the message securely. I will touch on why it is securely. But the most important part is this domain operator is always the one, defining the application you are going to use. And also the domain operator, you'll see very soon that there is an underlying ledger supporting that. But before, you probably see that in 6 participant nodes, they are not all connecting to different domains. In fact, this is also another important flexibility that Canton promised. It is that the participant node can connect to a lot of domains depending on the business needs. Say, for example, in this case, you will see that the participant nodes for HKMA is only connecting to HKMA. That means this participant node is not participating into any HKEX related business or activities. But is it possible to have more than multiple connections, just like the second one, the legal counsel? The legal counsel participant node is connecting to the HKMA domain as well as the HKEX domain. So this participant node can interact with both domain, both set of smart contracts. So again, whether a participant node is connected to one or more than one domain, it really depends on the business needs. Say in fact, I will touch this after this infrastructure introduction. In fact, we are envisioning the future is there are a lot of domains that a lot of participants can join based on the business needs. But let's focus on this infrastructure first. So inside the domain, we need some technology to synchronize the participant nodes. So that's where the underlying DLT is being introduced. So in this case, we just for POC, we introduced the Fabric as the underlying DLT for HKMA. And for the Besu, for the HKEX domain, we just put the Besu. Why these two are selected? Because it's Hyperledger community, right? Oh, not only because we just try to see that our domain can interact with different types of ledger technology. And in this case, I will just choose one on Fabric and one on Besu. In real life, they may choose some other underlying technology. But in general, it is how we are using the underlying distributed ledger technology like Fabric, like Besu, to ensure the synchronization across the participant nodes. And that's why you see that, I mean, we are using the DLT on this infrastructure. But again, the most important part is the source of truth is always on the participant nodes. And both Fabric or Besu on other ledger technology will supporting this to make this happen. And these are how the infrastructure looks like. So I hope this just one page. I spent that 10 minutes to have first ideas. So I hope the takeaway is we know what participant node is, how domain what domain is, and also how Hyperledger Fabric and also Hyperledger Besu will be part of our infrastructure to support what we have built. That you see you saw the demo, and you also the demo code and financial library that Dory just introduced. So with that, let's go a little bit further. See why we are introducing the Canton as the technology, and that is also how they see how the world, the DLT is being evolving. So at the very beginning, we all know that the first member coming up is Bitcoin. That is what we call the public blockchain, and also Ethereum. So in this case, it's something really changing the world. Everyone's the most important part is we call it safe because everyone sees everything. But that may not be applicable in enterprise environment, because in enterprise environment where there's still something that only the relevant parties or participants will know each other. And that's why we see some of our friends like the distributed ledger technology like Fabric, Besu, coming into the picture. So they bring up some framework that can help or enable a consortium of companies, organizations. They can share, they can exchange information very comfortable and also in a secure way. So the privacy at this moment is between the organization. But again, in this type of setup, because of the synchronization and also the consensus requirement, there's still some party can see something on it. So, and that's why we introduced the idea about Canton. It is a mesh idea. So in general, you can consider this big circle, they overlap each other. The idea is these big circles are something we call the domain. So inside the domain, just like I show what HKMA domain, HKEA domain, and we are envisioning a lot of domains coming up in the future. Some investment banks are building their own domain. So these type of domains are something that just like a business network. When you as a company try to join this network, in fact, what you did is you just bring up your participant nodes. And depending on your needs, you can connect to more than one domain. And then once you have the right set of smart contracts, then you will be part of that environment. You can interact with other parties who are already on that domain. So these are the ideas we are thinking about. Oh, in fact, I missed one point before. So if you don't mind, I just go back a little bit. So when the participant nodes are communicating to each other, say the participant node need to talk to participant node 2. In fact, physically, it has to go through the domain, have the consensus inside the underlying ledger, and then the participant node 2 will receive the data. But the most important part is this data is encrypted at an end-to-end manner. What does it mean? That means that only participant node 1 and node 2 can see the actual data. If it is a bond unit, 1 million bond units, that 1 million bond units can only be seen by these 2 participant nodes. Although physically, the path is going through the underlying technology, distributed ledger technology. If you double click into it, you only see the encrypted information. So that is important because, as I mentioned before, in the future world, we reach this type of multi-domain setup, we still enforce certain data privacy across them. Although we are using the same domain, like you and I are using the HKMA domain. But all the communication is encrypted. That means only you and I will see what the actual data is. Even the HKMA domain operator, they know something is passing through it. They have the log of that data, but they have no intelligence to what it actually is. And this is why we always mention that Canton is the privacy. Privacy is the most important part compared to some other enterprise DLT solution. So that is exactly what we're building right now. And you see we have different participant nodes and also some banks. Again, this is just the ambition. So there are a lot of domains here, different domain operators. They are running their own set of smart contracts. But when these two, when some participants try to interact with each other, say in this diagram, like HSBC and Standard Chartered Bank, they try to talk to each other. They are going through this mesh network. And these are what why DA built Canton, and also we are considering the future of business will look like this. So I end my introduction here. Hope is I know there's a lot of information, but hopefully you can get some idea how the infrastructure is supporting the smart contract that built with a financial library and also the customized demo contract. Such that we promise, the privacy enabled in the demo contract will be executed faithfully in the Canton infrastructure. So I just stop my part and I pass it back to Karen.
Casey, we will need to stop you there because there are a lot of questions, and I think so far there are questions. All the questions are related to Canton protocol. So if we may just go through the in order. So there's a question from Wei Chong. May I know if the Canton protocol is recommended for production use?
Of course. First,
our Canton is
.ga on March. I guess in March. Yeah. So before, I mean, when we do the POC, in fact, we are using the PGA version, but you can see that it's already interacting with different types of ledgers. So that's the first point. And the second point, in fact, is most clients now implementing is already in the Canton setup. So I won't name, I mean, different customers, but every customer now are using the Canton. They're building up right now, and they will be in production, I mean, very soon. But again, the software itself is already GA.
Yeah, I think the questions are all related or all focused on Canton because the market or probably the audience also see the value here. Digital Asset, we have launched or we have rolled out Daml 2.0, which is a combination of Daml smart contract and also the underlying protocol, interoperability protocol Canton. So today, I think our session is also very naturally divided. We started explaining on the Daml smart contract side and also Casey giving you a very sneak peek of the Canton protocol. And there will probably be more questions related to our project Genesis or Canton. So feel free to contact us. We will probably leave our contact in the chat room before the call ends as well. And we also have a question is related to Hyperledger Fabric and Besu. So he wants to know if we can transfer bond assets from Fabric to Besu network, or same bond assets will appear both or as a mirror assets on Fabric and Besu. That's a great question.
Very great question. I keep receiving this question every time after I finish my introduction. So the idea, in fact, when we talk about the interoperability across these ledger technologies, in fact, what we are unifying them or interop with them is at the Daml level. That means all the assets, in fact, are defined in the Daml as the active contracts, and we are using the underlying technology Fabric and Besu to make it happen. So in that case, we are not interacting with the asset in the Besu network or in the Fabric network directly. So to answer your question, in fact, for those assets already defined in the Fabric or Besu, we need some external mechanism to do the, say, asset swap, for example. So you probably heard about something called hash time lock contract, and that is available in the demo, interacting with Besu Fabric. Oh, I personally test both as well. And but back to the question, let me repeat again. We are not interacting directly with the asset here. The Fabric and also Besu are providing an environment, a synchronization layer for us, such that we our asset defined in the demo, in the participant log, truly reflect the real business relationship. That is how it works.
Yeah, and also on a high level, I think the reason that we come up with 2 domains for this pilot is because BIS and HKMA, they want to have an ambitious tokenization pilot to look at the end-to-end steps for the retail green bond. So we start with HKMA governing. So we start with the primary issuance process, which HKMA governs all the business logic, and they are the validator for the golden source of truth when they do the allocation. And during the secondary process, when the tokenization prototype extends to the secondary process, we are having a Hong Kong Exchange being the platform that the securities transact on. And so Hong Kong Exchange can have the ultimate say to the transactions, and they validate or have the finality to all the trading happening on the platform. So we think in a real world, it's probably too idealistic for one of the domain or one of the enterprise blockchain to come up with the end-to-end solution. In practice, it's multiple domains need to come together. Like in our current world, Hong Kong MA and Hong Kong Exchange needs to come together to facilitate the end-to-end process.
Let me address 2 questions from Dennis. I like these questions because the first is talking about how the template and interacting with the domain. And the second one is, make it bigger. So for various domains, that is very important point. You'll help me to elaborate how the Daml/Canton is different from other digital ledger technology framework like Fabric or Besu. For others, we always start with the consensus, the mechanism, and then the nodes, and then the smart contract language. So it is a stack of the of each framework. You see the Fabric, you see the Besu, and also others as well. But DA taking another approach. We start with the smart contract language. So that means, in fact, our focusing point is how to code the business logic, meeting the right business relation in the real world. So that part is purely a demo language. You don't need to care, what underlying technology you are going to use. So that's what we always call code once, you can use many times. So just focusing on build those business logic in the demo. And once the demo, the templates, everything is successfully, you can test it, in your environment. And then it will be converted into a DAR file. I mentioned this before. That DAR file is uploaded in the Canton environment. So that means when you build the DAR file or the demo model, you don't need to care what underlying ledger technology you're using. And in fact, this is the Canton software handle this for you. So we come with the driver interacting with those ledger technologies. So short answer is you don't need to care. You're just focusing on the business logic in the demo language. So that's one part. In fact, there's another word related questions is about when the fabric network is already running. Do we need to write something additional on top of it? And no, you don't need to. The idea is when Canton come with the driver, we come with we come with a set of chain code already. And that chain code is just deployed on the channel. Sorry about that. I'm just not going into some fabric terminology. So once the fabric is running, you just allocate one channel and deploy our chain code. Then our driver will interact with the chain code we provide. So the short answer is no. You don't need to touch everything you have today. You just keep your fabric network up and running. Just dedicate one channel for us, and then the Canton setup will talk to that channel with the chain code we provide. So that's how things work underlying. Yeah, thanks.
Just one thing I want to highlight is for each of the domain, you can write a business logic specific DAR file. Let's say from the project genesis case, for the HKMA one, actually we are writing the business logic of the primary issuance, which is we're creating one DAR file. And then another DAR file is more related to the secondary trading. So that's why it's related to the HKEX. And both DAR file you actually uploaded into the participant node. And so that's why the business logic is actually interacted within the Canton protocol, but not in the underlying blockchain. I think we still have time, right? Feel free to ask any question if you like.
Okay, I saw a question about the solution employ demo hub for deployment. Another good point here. So the demo code itself, again, as I keep mentioning, that the demo code, you just keep focusing it, whether it's deployed on demo hub or deployed on a Canton environment, or maybe just deploy a sandbox. In fact, you don't need to touch on the demo codes, but for this deployment, we are deploying it at all the components you see in the infrastructure in an AWS environment. So, and this is just for this POC, but it doesn't mean that you cannot do it on the demo hub, but make sure, you follow what demo hub provides. Say, for example, you may not have be able to have more than one participant nodes, etc. But that is, from the demo language or the code, the templates, everything as well. That set of demo code can be used in demo hub, sandbox, and also the environment that I showed you before.
Yeah, and also for everyone's benefits, we can probably explain about the Demo Hub. So Demo Hub is a managed service provided by Digital Asset, and it's running on a cloud environment. So we take care of every of the like the authorization of the access control, and also so you can literally, I think, as our co-founder Eric puts it, you can literally have a marketplace within 15 minutes from the start to the launch. So it's a great way to accelerate and also act as a sandbox, even enterprise block eventually wants to deploy on a DLT.
In the project genesis case, actually, I built the business logics in my local PC, and then I compiled a DAR file. So by using this DAR file, you can also deploy it in the Canton protocol, or actually you can also make use of this DAR file and upload it to the demo hub and run your own applications. There is a very good example in our GitHub open source repository, which is the DA marketplace. And underneath, there is a very detailed guideline to showing you the steps how to deploy that in the demo hub, and also showing you how to run it locally with the DAR file. Yeah.
Thank you for everyone to dial into today's session. So we hope that we have given you some more behind the scene actions of how digital asset implemented Project Genesis. And please feel free to reach back to us if you have any more further questions.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. And Julian is and others are planning more sessions.
We see in the
for
chat
APAC.
there are questions to or there are inquiries to keep to have us share some link of the GitHub, the link. So we will probably just keep the chat running for another 5 minutes, and we will provide the answer and the link in the chat box.
Yeah, looks like Dorit has already provided the link for that GitHub.
Yep, this is the one I referred to.
And as I was saying, we'll have more presentations on similar topics in the future. And Julian and I are probably planning the other sessions. And hopefully we'll be able to look at other great projects happening there in the Asia Pacific zone. And thanks for showing up. And thanks to all the presenters. And we'll see you next time in about a month, in 4 weeks in the APAC zone, and in 2 weeks in the US-Europe zone. But of course, that'll be a time zone when most of you guys cannot attend. So this is the way we have structured this whole Capital Markets SIG, so that we switch between US, Europe, and APAC, and to highlight the projects that are happening in each region. Thank you. And we will see you in about 4 weeks. Thank you. Thank you, Dorit. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Liping, for dialing in your midnight.
Yes, it's midnight.